Good evening, everybody. It is Phoenix with All Talk Wrestling, bringing you guys another All Talk Wrestling Top 10 Countdown. Today, we're going to be going over who I believe are the top 10 greatest tag team champions in WWE history. Not to say just the greatest tag teams of all time, because that's a completely different list, and we'll have a lot more fun with that, but just tag teams that had won championship gold under the WWE banner. This was a difficult list to put together, because as I started researching, I realized there had been a lot of great tag teams in the WWE. Most before my time, some in the modern day, but they all brought a different dynamic here. So what I want to do is cut through a lot of that and figure out who were the greatest in a numerical order, and if you guys agree with it. I think that based off of some of the things that I'm looking for, I pinned down a pretty good list, but we'll get an opportunity to have you guys look into that and tell me what you think. Now, in determining who I believe the 10 greatest tag team champions of all time are, I had to look at a couple of things. Number one, I had to look at accomplishments. How accomplished were you as a tag team? I had to look at impact. How impactful were you as a tag team to the tag team division at the time that you were competing for championships in the WWE? I had to look at relevancy. How relevant did you make the tag team championships in your division as opposed to the tag team championships making you relevant? And of course, consistency. How consistent of a tag team were you in the time that you were winning championships? That's a huge determining factor on why I rank people the way that I do. So if you guys have any questions or concerns about that, let me know in the comments. I definitely appreciate the feedback. It gives me motivation to continue to bring you guys All Talk Wrestling top 10 videos, kind of like I'm doing today. Now, before we dive into it, I do like to give this disclaimer to everybody before I make an announcement on my top 10 list. For everybody that I put on this list and for everybody that's on my honorable mentions, it was all done based off of the facts. I looked up the facts for every single team that I had put on this list, and it's only the thing that drives my opinion. The placement is an opinion, but the facts that I provide determine the placement. It's not definitive. It's not indisputable. It's not to say that my list is the end all be all. It 100% isn't. It can change, it can flip, and people can have a difference of opinion on how I put things together. That's all fine and dandy. I like the debate aspect of that, but I'm giving the reason why I'm putting these teams where I put them. Now, before I get to gibbering on, I would like to provide you guys with what I believe are the honorable mentions of teams that were good, but just not good enough in order to make it into the top 10 list. They could have been in a top 10 countdown on their own, but I'm just doing the one countdown. So without further ado, here are my honorable mentions for the top 10 greatest tag teams in WWE history as champions. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this countdown. At number 10, we have the Wild Samoans. Now, the team of Afa and Sika, the Wild Samoans, were three-time World Tag Team Champions. They had been champions accumulated for 431 days in total. On this list, that's actually the sixth longest reign in WWE. Their longest run was for 252 days. The Wild Samoans' prime was about 3 years as far as tag team champions, based on their first win in April of 1980, and then their last win, which turned out to be their longest, in March of 1983. So the Wild Samoans were definitely before their time as far as a long-standing tag team, and they're definitely one of the better ones that we've had. I don't have a problem with putting them on this list. They could have flip-flopped with maybe one or two teams that were in the honorable mentions, but I think with getting a voice from the community and the nation, they're the ones who thought that the Wild Samoans were the better of the teams that I could have flipped them with. So the Wild Samoans, good for number 10 on my greatest tag team champions in WWE history. Coming in at number 9, we have Edge and Christian. Now, for a lot of nostalgia individuals, me putting Edge and Christian right at number 9 probably won't sit well, and I have a good explanation as to why that is. Edge and Christian are 7-time tag team champions. That's actually the 4th most runs on this entire top 10 list. But why would I have a team that have the 4th most championship reigns at number 9? Well, Edge and Christian's time spent as tag team champions was for 206 days, and that's actually the lowest amount of anybody on this list. Their longest run was for 91 days, slightly over 3 months. And all 7 of Edge and Christian's championship reigns took place between April 2nd of 2000 and April 1st of 2001. They had been a tag team way before then, and they never really hit their stride until they became part of the Attitude Era Big Three. So Edge and Christian had a legendary and historic year as tag team champions, but never anything before that or never anything after that. Here we are 2 decades later, and this team has never won tag team gold together. I mean, they were great for the TLC matches with the Hardys and with the Dudleys, but anything beyond that, if you look at it in a microscope, they had a fantastic year. I think that they're good enough for number 9, but really nothing beyond that. Coming in at number 8, we have the Legion of Doom. Now again, this list is only basing off of success as tag team champions in the WWE. The Legion of Doom are 2-time world tag team champions. They've had 213 accumulated days as tag team champions, and that's actually 9th most on this list. And their longest run was for 164 days. Now, we know that the Road Warriors were super successful outside of the WWE. If we're talking about the greatest tag teams of all time, factoring in all promotion success, Legion of Doom is easily top 3, maybe even the best. That's arguable. But for the time that they were in the WWE, I don't know, their prime kind of lasted about a year. They won their first tag team championships in 1991, and then they went 6 years without winning a tag team championship again before they got their last run in 1997. A lot could have played in part to that, but there was a lot of gaps between when they were tag team champions together. So that's why I think that Legion of Doom is good enough for number 8 on this list. But compared to other teams, I wouldn't put them any higher than that. But they're definitely one of the most legendary tag teams of all time. Coming in at number 7, we have the New Age Outlaws. So putting the New Age Outlaws this low on this list wasn't easy, but I think that we have enough reason as to why that was done. First of all, the New Age Outlaws are 6-time tag team champions. That includes 5 reigns as the World Tag Team Champions and 1 reign as the WWE, or now Raw, Tag Team Champions. They've accumulated 505 days as champion, which is actually the 4th most among all the teams on my top 10 list. Their longest run was for 125 days. The biggest thing about the New Age Outlaws is their first championship reign came in 1997, and their last one as World Tag Team Champions came in 1999. So as good as they were, the New Age Outlaws had about a 2-year run as tag team champions. Now, they were really just kind of thrown together as a tag team, and somebody explained that it was supposed to be a one-off thing that wasn't supposed to work, but it absolutely did work. And I think that they put themselves in position to be known as historically one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Their last championship reign came in July of 2014. So 15 years after their previous last championship reign is when they ended up getting another one. So that 15-year time doesn't really speak to consistency. For the time and the attitude era that they were called upon, they were definitely one of the greatest. So I feel like number 7 on this list is good for them. Coming in at number 6, we have the Usos. Now, you can make an argument that's probably too early to put the Usos in the top 10 greatest tag team champions list. I don't think that is too early. I think that they're relevant, and I think they're historic already. The Usos are 6-time tag team champions, including 2 Raw or WWE tag team championships and 4 SmackDown tag team championships. They've accumulated 637 days as tag team champion. That's actually good for 3rd most on this list among all tag teams. The longest run was for 202 days, and currently the Usos stand as the longest reigning SmackDown tag team champions based off of accumulated days. Now, they could definitely be a little bit higher on this list. My only issue is injuries always played a part in the Usos not having more consistent championship runs. I mean, the last tag team title win was in February of 2019. And here we are 1 day away from when they actually last won in 2021, and they haven't had any tag team championship runs. Injury kind of derailed them from being able to be great. But I think that with time and a couple more wins, the Usos are definitely going to climb a lot higher in this list. Again, I'm not looking at the nostalgia aspect of it. I'm looking at how accomplished, how impactful and relevant and consistent you are. The Usos have a ton of that. So they're good for number 6 on my list, greatest tag team champions of all time. Coming in at number 5, we have Demolition. Now, most won't fancy a Road Warriors knockoff being in the top 5 as far as greatest tag team champions of all time, but for some of the outliers that I threw, how could you argue their placement? They're 3-time World Tag Team Champions. They've accumulated 698 days as tag team champions. That's actually 2nd best of all the teams on this list. Their 478-day run as tag team champions is actually the longest reigning World Tag Team Champions in the company's history, but the 2nd longest reigning tag team champions under any brand in WWE history. So that's insane. They knew how to be a tag team together. And of course, I'm talking about Axe, Crush, and Smash, the three of them, not just any specific, the whole lot of them. But yeah, with numbers like that, it's hard to really deny Demolition their spot as one of the greatest tag team champions of all time. So I think that they're good for number 5 on this list. All right, now we are in Mount Rushmore territory. At number 4, we have the Hart Foundation. Now, the team of Bret Hart and Jim Ned Hart are only 2-time World Tag Team Champions. They've had an accumulated 483 days as tag team champions. That's actually 5th most among all teams on this list. Their longest run was for 274 days. The main reason that I have the number 4, they're the only team on this list to have multiple 200-day runs as the World Tag Team Champions. Like, that's insane. No other team at any point in time, at least on this top 10 list, was able to pull off something like that. That goes to speak to the amazingness of the Hart Foundation. They had a solid 3-year run as tag team champions between 1987 and 1990. I don't know, like, that whole era of time was definitely great for tag team wrestling. The Hart Foundation was a part of it. I think they're a Mount Rushmore greatest tag team champions of all time. And this is where it starts to get difficult. At number 3, we have the Hardy Boys. Now, here's the reason it gets difficult with putting the Hardy Boys at number 3 and no higher than that. The Hardy Boys are 8-time tag team champions. That consists of 6 World Tag Team Championship runs, 1 WWE or Raw Tag Team Championship win, and 1 SmackDown Tag Team Championship win. In company history, that's good for 3rd most all time among tag teams winning tag team championships. The only issue is the Hardy Boys have accumulated only 235 days as tag team champions. That's 8th best on this list. And their longest run was for only 64 days. And sad to say, when they won the Raw Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania, when they had first returned back in 2017, that was the longest run they've ever had as tag team champions. And you would think that a team with the legacy that the Hardy Boys did would have been more long-standing tag team champions in the WWE, but it never came to be. But I think that with the consistency that they had from 1999 until 2001, where they were really winning the majority of their tag team championships, to the, 6 years in between before they won their last tag team championships in 2007, to the 10 years to the date time that they won the tag team championships at WrestleMania. From April 2nd, 2007 to April 2nd, 2017, it's a long time. But I think that for them, they're good enough to hit number 3 on this list. Coming in at number 2, we have the Dudley Boys. If this was any other conversation outside of greatest WWE tag team champions of all time, we wouldn't even be having much of a top 10 countdown. We just know the Dudley Boys would be number 1. The Dudley Boys are 9-time tag team champions under the WWE, which includes 8 World Tag Team Championships and 1 WWE or Raw now tag team championships. That's actually the 2nd most in WWE history. They've only had an accumulated 302 days as tag team champions, which is 7th best on this list, and their longest run was for 84 days. Now, when it came down to consistency, they had probably the 3rd best consistency numbers as far as tag team champions on this list. Their first run was in February of 2000, and then their last run was in June of 2004. So that 4-year time frame, the Dudley Boys were relevant in the tag team division. They were making impact in the tag team division where some of these other teams weren't even together anymore. The Dudley Boys was keeping the tag team division spicy. They were keeping it relevant. Can't be mad at that, but the time frame in which they were winning championships and the gap between when they were having their championship runs is the main reason that I have them at number 2 here. Like I said, if this was any other list, Dudley Boys would be number 1 by a landslide, but it's not. And that's where I have to give you guys my top. The number 1 greatest tag team champions of all time in the WWE, The New Day. Now, call it a prisoner of the moment, call it recency bias, call it whatever you want, but make sure you call it a fact on top of that. The New Day are 10-time tag team champions, including 3 WWE or Raw tag team championships and 7 SmackDown tag team championships. More SmackDown tag team championship wins than anybody. More accumulated tag team championship wins than anybody. They spent mind-blowing 974 days as tag team champions. That's the most by any team in WWE history. Their longest run was for 483 days. Again, the most by any team in WWE history. Whether you hate them, whether you love them, whether you like them, whether you laud them, no matter what you want to say, the numbers speak to it. When it came down to accomplishments, impact, relevancy, and consistency, the New Day are the kings of the tag team division. They got their first championship win in 2015. Their last championship win came in 2020. 5 consecutive years, every year except 2016, where they were breaking records as tag team champions, they were winning tag teams. They're still going strong as a tag team right now. They still have potentially more tag team championships to win, so they could obliterate the current numbers that they have. No matter what you want to say about it, if nostalgia does not allow you to accept this, if certain eras and judging does not allow you to accept this, then that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when it comes down to it, when you can't argue against the facts, and these are all facts that I presented, The New Day are the greatest tag team champions in the history of the WWE banner, bar none. This was actually a landslide, and I almost had no problem putting them at number one when I even started this list to begin with. And that's going to be it for my top 10 list. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a like for this video. Again, I will continue to put out as much wrestling content as I can. I'm going to try to make these top 10 countdowns a weekly thing, so it gives me enough time in order to think about my next idea, present it to you guys, and then we go from there. But as always, I'm Phoenix with All Talk Wrestling. Thank you for watching. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.